Now, this is an irregular video, but this is the only way I can make any sense. What you can see here are the results of a control pad that I've just fixed, and it was a complete and utter pain in the arse, because it was made up of all of my old bits in my graveyard box of pad bits. But let's just zoom in and get a closer look. It's only PS4 Dualshock Blue V1 Gen 3 partial back sticker. That was just so I know what I'm looking at, because I've got a few blue ones laying around now. Right, L2 and R2 trigger silicon void filled to increase 100% pressure. I had extreme trouble getting them to register as 100% full press, so I've filled the voids. I'll show you a picture in a little while to increase the pressure. But right, the board locator pin was fixed on this as well. That's on the board. I'll show you that in a minute. Pot sides replaced, 4x 10.24k resistance. I had to replace the lot of them after messing about it for ages. I've got an aftermarket battery in there, which is fairly good. 2x50k and 2x100k trim pots to recalibrate the dead spots. Let's just zoom that back out. As you can see, you've got axis O, 50k. Let's not move it about. Axis 1, 100k. Axis 2 is 50k and axis 3 was 100k. I started with 50k's on every single axis, all four axes at the beginning, but the circularity test was extremely tight on axis 1 and 3. So I had to widen them out. And as you can see, axis 3 is still a really good 02745 result in both directions. And as I'm on this page, the average error ended up as 10.4 on the left percent and 11.2% on the right, which is fantastic, because I've recently just discovered, let me just zoom this right in down here, the average error without sticks installed is 21.8% max error. Divide that by 2 equals 10.9%, so that is the ideal overshoot of your circularity test to allow you to recalibrate. Right, and when I say it was 21.8%, on the test parameter website, gamepad-tester.com, it will show square into the corners, and that was the maximum value I could get to come on there, and that was when I had 500k trim pots on every axis, the original analog sticks. Then I think when I took them off, then when I replaced them and put all the 50s on, and when I've replaced it with the 50s and 100s, it's always been a maximum of 21.8 is the maximum received digital response on there. So just dividing it by 2, you get 10.9. Next photo. Come on. No, you've got to zoom it out first. That's it. Right, this is when I just finished it and I put it all back together again. But this is before I did the circularity test. As you can see, I've got the 50 on axis 1 and a 50 on axis 3. So that was a pain in the arse. So I had to reconfigure it all. I'll take it all apart again and desolder and resolder. Right, and this was the repair with the wire. Plastic, what do you call it? 3D printer wire that my friend upstairs had given me a strip of. 1.7mm that is, and I only had a 1.5 drill bit, which the repair is under all that scratch there. Right in the centre of that, I drilled a hole all the way through from the other side, and then using my carpentry scraper or the blade below slightly, I flattened it all back out again after I'd soldered the wire, melted it into the board, so it's completely flat there for that clear circuit ribbon to sit flat on there. And that is it the other way up. with a file that I was going to file it flat with, and I countersunk it in there and filled that void, melting it down in the hole. And that was a pain in the... No, what am I doing? That was a pain in the bum. Let's go to there. This was the actual pin internally next to the foam pad, right in the centre here. I put super glue around the hole, pushed in there with a toothpick just to get it in the hole, and that was at the nominal length of all the other pins on the underside of that board. And this was when I was testing it just to see if it lined up, and the ribbon cable actually made contact with the left side of the board, so I had to test all of the functions. As I say again, complete pain in the bum. When I drilled it the first time round, that was just a 1.2 drill, I think it was at the time. I can't remember now, it was early in the day. And this was part of the process of the lining it up again on the opposite side. Come on. And right here is before I did any of it. That's what you're looking at. It was a snapped off positioning post, so I melted my soldering iron straight in the middle of it and then drilled it through, as you've already seen. Alright, and what was this? And this was the day before, messing about with this. You can see bubbles in the middle of that. That is silicone. I filled it with silicone and then swiped it flush to the top of them in order to get more pressure out of them on the contact of the L2 and the R2 button. And that worked a treat. That's both sides. 1, 2, and then a full view of that. And this was the first attempt. What you can see there is I tried to do it as a ring on top, and it just fell off. It just wouldn't adhere to it. Usually you have to have silicone release spray to get it to release, but it's just not sticking to that. So I filled the holes up instead. Hopefully that'll work a lot better. And the other problem that I had was one of these. This is the D-pad right position. It was. Had cracked through, so it weren't returning up, so I thickened it up with a little bit of silicone all around it. Seems to work a lot better now. And that is another pad that I won't be showing you just yet. Don't need to show you that. Alright. Oh yeah, what was I going to do? A live test. Alright, here we go. That pad that's basically a Frankenstein pad. That's one pass. As you can tell, on that right stick it's very, very tight to the circularity. That is why I put a 100k trim pot in axis 3, and axis 1 I did the same to get that open, and to bring the overall average error to more of a circular overshoot. And what we got, B15 is at right D-pad position. It feels slightly spongy, but it doesn't activate when I'm pushing all the other buttons now, because it was split through and fairly soft. It was more likely to activate when you didn't want it to, but now it's fine. So that's all the D-pad buttons. Right, the triggers themselves, L2. Let's go 100% without fail. There, 100%. R2 without fail, because they're now filled in the void. They just feel, comparing it to one of my other pads, just feels slightly harder, and that's about it. And I've got full range. Right, I get it to 100%, and then I've got a little bit more of a press there overhead. Very, very little. You get it 100% there, and I've got the same on the other side. So that should be future-proofed to stay working, except maybe that B15, that rubber silicon pad, that might go again, which means it's a D-pad silicon that needs to be replaced in there. The opposite side's fine. PS button, L1, sorry, L3, so that's stick button, L3, R3. And I can't remember what I said the average error was. Oh, for the circularity. Hold on, I'm just looking at the sheet in the dark. 10.4 and 11.2 is what that is. When you finally get it to wind right up, you have to sit there for a while and do that, but I'm not going to do that on the LF stick. Look, you can take my word for it, this pad is pucker, and it started off as a piece of crap this morning. Oh yeah, touchpad, yep, that still works, and I've checked it for charging and all the other functionality. The motors are all attached and they work. As always, I test it on, let's just get this centered, the playroom. That was it. I tested it on the playroom because that gives you the motors activation, the speaker activation, and I plug a headset in to see if the headset jack works as well. So that's a fantastically rebuilt pad now, and I think I may put that on a sales page and use this video for that purpose. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.